Six Flags Fiesta Texas is celebrating its 30th anniversary in 2022. Located in San Antonio, Texas, on the site of the Redland Quarry. They had been mining limestone here since 1934, but by 1988, the supply was tapped out and the land was up for sale. Fiesta Texas would open on this plot 4 years later, owned by the insurance company USAA, and 4 years after that, Time Warner took over management and operations and renamed the park Six Flags Fiesta Texas. In 1998, Premier Parks would buy the park from USAA, and it officially became a Six Flags park. Over those 30 years, Fiesta Texas has seen 13 coasters come and go. And today, let's put all bias aside and see which one is the tallest, fastest, longest, best paced. And let's rank them based on prime ride time. These are the coasters of Six Flags Fiesta Texas, by the numbers. If you're new to this series, prime ride time starts when the front car picks up speed off the lift and ends when it hits the final brakes. For launch coasters, the clock starts when the launch starts. Mid-course brake runs are left into the prime ride time, but if they hit too hard, it will extend the ride time but hurt the pacing. With the help of Google Maps and the Pythagorean theorem, I was able to take out the lift, station, and brakes from the overall length, so the number on your screen will not match the number on RCDB. Like the Busch Gardens Tampa episode, I will include the 2 defunct coasters in the park to go along with the 11 currently in operation. Before we start, if you can drop this video a like, I'd appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. In 13th place with 11 seconds is Streamliner Coaster, a Vekoma Junior coaster. This is a park original, a very basic oval layout, and the only coaster for small kids in the park. It opened with a German theme, called Rollschuh Coaster until 2008, then Rompa-Bump Stomp from 2009 to 2010, then Kiddie Coaster from 2011 to 2019, and finally Streamliner Coaster with a train theme. Not surprising, this is in last place across the board. 15-foot drop, 14 miles per hour, 226 feet of track, and covers 20.5 feet per second. No other coaster in the park is even close to those stats. It's not much, but the kids need something, so it serves its purpose. In 12th place with 22 seconds is Batman the Ride, an SNS free spin. There are 12 of these out there now, but this was the original when it opened in 2015. It's a very short but very chaotic ride, so 22 seconds seems like enough for unpredictable flipping. It stands 120 feet tall but winds its way down, so its max drop is only 54 feet, third to last. It's also probably a good thing that this only hits 38 miles per hour. That ranks 10th. It has to move slow to avoid ripping people's faces off, so it's third to last in pacing. It joins Streamliner Coaster as the only coasters in the park under 1,000 feet of track, coming in at 701 feet. Definitely not a stat monster, but its purpose is to offer a compact and wild ride, and I think it achieves that. That's why other parks jumped on this model, and it's spreading worldwide every year. In 11th place with 24 seconds is Wonder Woman Golden Lasso Coaster, an RMC Raptor. This is the most intense ride in the park, one of the most intense rides in the world, but it's not very big. It's only 6 with a 100-foot drop, so it only maxes out at 53 miles per hour, also 6th place. It doesn't even cover 1,400 feet of prime ride track, so that's down in 10th. But I'm sure a lot of you would expect the pacing to top the list. I know when I ranked the RMCs, I said this had 30 seconds of ride time, and that's true if you look at the slower park POV and include the turn off the lift. I started the clock on the first drop, and from there, it hits the final brakes after just 24 seconds. That boosts the pacing all the way up to number 2 in the park, still about 6 feet per second behind number 1, but pretty much in line with what I expected. The pacing is great, and RMC makes it seem even crazier with those tight elements. In 10th place with 29 seconds is Joker's Revenge, a Vekoma Hurricane. This opened in 1996, right after Time Warner took over the park, and this shut down in 2001. Six Flags decided to move this to New Orleans for the 2003 season. This was located in the back of the park where Pandemonium is now. It was a very basic Vekoma looper, but the trains ran backward, which made it interesting. It stood 79 feet tall. That's 8th place, 9th in speed and length, but up at 4th in pacing at 55.8 feet per second. It has a drop, loop, turns into 2 corkscrews, and ends with a helix. Nothing really high off the ground, so even though it only hits 40 miles per hour, it maintains that speed pretty well. In 9th place with 34 seconds is Boomerang, a Vekoma Boomerang. You've seen one, you've seen them all. This is your basic Boomerang from 1999. You have to double the track length to account for the forward and backward parts, but take out the first lift. It covers 1,720 feet of prime ride track, which is 8th. It also stands over 116 feet tall, which is 5th. Hits 47 miles per hour, which is 8th. and it's right in the middle in pacing at 6. Nothing really spectacular about this one. In 8th place with 38 seconds is Iron Rattler, an RMC hybrid. At only 38 seconds, it's one of the shorter RMCs, but in its own park, it's 3rd in length at just over 2,400 feet. Low ride time, decent length. That's a recipe for good pacing, and Iron Rattler is tops in the park, covering 63.3 feet per second, and beating Wonder Woman by about 6 feet per second. It does speed through the course, with the exception of the part on top of the quarry, but even that couldn't knock it out of 1st place. Nothing in the park is taller or faster either, with a 171-foot drop and 70-mile-per-hour top speed, though it does have to share the speed title with another coaster in the park. In 7th place with 39 seconds is Goliath, a B&M invert. Despite the name, just think of this as a Batman clone. Short, fast, all that stuff. It's right in the middle in height and speed, ranking 7th. It's up at 5th in length with over 2,200 feet, and no surprise, it's way up at 3rd in pacing, just a fraction of a foot behind Wonder Woman. Even with that modest 80-foot drop and 50-mile-per-hour top speed, all the elements are so small that it never loses that speed, and that's why people consider these Batman clones as some of the most intense coasters out there. In 6th place with 40 seconds is Pandemonium, a Gerstlauer spinner. In 2007, about 5 years after Joker's Revenge was taken out, Fiesta Texas finally replaced it with this clone. At this point, the chain was in dire financial straits, and this was a very popular model. Just like Batman the Ride, this rises up but doesn't have a main drop. It just kinda winds its way down. It stands 48 feet tall, but its max drop is only 27 feet. That's second to last. Naturally, it never achieves a big top speed, only maxing out at 31 miles per hour, also second to last. The way it dips down and rises up, it's gonna have bad pacing, and there it is once again, second to last, covering just under 28 feet per second. Just like Batman, when you spin people, you gotta moderate those forces, so it makes sense the stats are bad. It could be a bit longer, ranking 3rd to last with just over 1,100 feet of track. But again, the human body can only stand so much spinning. In 5th place with 41 seconds is Dr. Diabolical's Cliffhanger, a B&M dive coaster. The park's newest coaster is a model that's not known for its length. These are usually one-trick ponies that will mix in 1 or 2 inversions and then head back to the station. This being a new one, it's a little more complex. You got 2 inversions, another drop off the midcourse, an airtime hill, and a helix. All that only covers 1,840 feet of track and ranks 7th. It's also much shorter than your traditional dive coaster. It seems like, until recently, in America at least, dive coasters were over 200 feet. This is only 150 feet tall, but that's still good enough for 3rd place. At the bottom of that vertical drop, it hits 60 miles per hour, that's tied for 4th, but it doesn't keep that speed through the whole course. It slows down a lot on the mid-course brake run, leading up to the second drop, so at 44.9 feet per second, it's down in 8th place. In 4th place with 47 seconds is RoadRunner Express, an aero mine train. When you think of a mine train, you think of a long, meandering ride with shallow drops and janky trains. Even though this is still an aero mine train, it was built in 1997 and it was built to be a true thrill ride. It rises up on top of the quarry wall and has a really nice dive down. It's 73 foot height, ranking 10th. At the bottom of that drop, it hits 35 miles per hour, which is 11th. And despite having 2 lift hills, it only covers about 1,900 feet of prime ride track. That's still good for 6. It's also 10th in pacing, so all in all, the stats aren't all that impressive. That shows that even though this may be one of the more thrilling mine trains, it's still a mine train. In 3rd place with 48 seconds is Poltergeist, a Premier Rides launch looper. This is the park's only launch coaster, but it's a good one, using those LIMs to launch you out of the haunted house, reaching a top speed of 60 miles per hour, which is tied with Dr. Diabolical for 4th. It rises up to 78.8 feet. That's good for 9th place. But like so many other coasters in the park, it doesn't have a big drop. It just winds its way to the ground, tossing you through a mess of compact track and through 4 inversions. At 2,366 feet, this is the park's 4th longest coaster, but no surprise, its pacing isn't all that great. In order to wind through that course, it takes some slow and awkward turns. It's really only during the launch and the finale where you feel like you're going fast, and it's down at 7th, covering 49.3 feet per second. In 2nd place with 58 seconds is Superman Krypton Coaster, a B&M floorless. This park has so many short coasters, but during Six Flags Bender back in 2000, they went all out with this one. It rises up 168 feet on top of the quarry wall, then twists down. That drop is 2nd in the park and only 3 feet behind Iron Rattler. Its top speed of 70 miles per hour is tied with Iron Rattler for the top spot. From there, it goes through a 7 inversion course that includes a helix on top of the quarry wall, a very unique custom element for a floorless coaster. This is all good for about 3,300 feet of track, which is 2nd in the park, about 900 feet more than Iron Rattler, but still about 900 feet behind number 1. We'll get to that one next. Superman has very big inversions and a mid-course brake run, but it still does a good job maintaining its speed, finishing 4th in pacing at 57 feet per second. In first place with 97 seconds is Rattler, an RCCA wooden coaster. I didn't plan it this way, but for the second straight By the Numbers video, we get to talk about Rattler. This opened as the park's marquee coaster in 1992, and shut down in 2012 so RMC can turn it into Iron Rattler. RMC did not mess with its height. It stood at 179.7 feet, but that drop did not make it all the way to the ground, leveling out at 124 feet, which is good for 4th. Its 65 mile/h top speed was good for 3rd, and it needed all that speed to make it through its 4,221 feet of prime ride track. That is by far the longest in the park's history and leaves Superman in its dust. It really was too long for its own good, and when you throw in that never-ending helix on top of the quarry wall, you can understand why it's down in 9th place for pacing, covering just 43.5 feet per second. Rattler had a pretty bad reputation, and considering this ran for over a minute and a half, 39 seconds clear of the rest of the field, it sounded like a long, rough mess. I never got to ride it, but I can only imagine. That's all for the coasters of Six Flags Fiesta Texas. By the Numbers. Let me know if anything here surprised you, or confirmed something you already knew. It was interesting to rework the numbers for Wonder Woman, limiting the prime ride time down to just 24 seconds instead of 30, which I think is more accurate, and seeing how that rocketed up the pacing number. I was also surprised to see how bad RoadRunner's stats were. I didn't expect it to be near the bottom of everything, especially speed and pacing. I guess it just seems more impressive than it is because it's a mine train. It's still one of the best. It's between this and Thunderation at Silver Dollar City. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like. And if you're new here and love coasters, please consider giving me a sub. If you like this type of video, I have a playlist with others in this format. Also, check out my links below for my Discord server, and my second channel where I post copyright-free off-ride footage, and my baseball channel if you're a baseball fanatic like I am. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.